Hi, my name is Angie Abdou. I'm an associate professor of creative writing at Athabasca University. I'm also chair of the Writer in Residence program. We're very proud of our Writer in Residence program at Athabasca University. We've had a number of fabulous writers join us over the years. Recently, we've had Essie Adujan, Katrina Vermette, Stephen Heighton, John Valiant, a lot of writers we're really proud of. And not only do they have time while they're with us to work on their own creative projects, but they also are available to mentor writers in the Athabasca University community. And so this year, I'm very excited to announce that Michael Winter is going to join us as our writer in residence. He is a fiction writer. He writes both short fiction and long fiction and various experimental prose. His work has been nominated for many prestigious prizes, including the Impact Literary Award, the Giller Prize more than once, the Writers' Trust Fiction Award also more than once, the Trillium Book Award, and the Winter Set Award. By way of welcome, Michael. First of all, I'm so excited that you're going to be with us for this academic season.
Thank you, Angie. Thanks so much. I'm really happy and delighted to be part of the Athabasca program.
By way of introducing you, I thought we could just talk a little bit about you and your life first. And so I know I always think of you, if I'm talking about you with readers, I always refer to you as a Newfoundland writer. The reality is that you haven't actually lived in Newfoundland for a long time. You've lived in Toronto. So can you tell me a little bit about Newfoundland and Toronto as your homes, and where do you live?
Yeah, that's a great question. I moved to Toronto when I was about 30, I think, from Newfoundland. But I always, like a lot of Newfoundlanders, missed back home. And one year I entered, there's an annual contest that CBC Radio has, or the short story contest. And one year I won it. And they gave you a check for $6,000. And in the next week after I won it, my friend Michael Crummy called me and said, "Hey, Michael, there's a house next door to me around the bay for sale for $6,000." And so I bought that house. And every year since then, it's been about 20 years or so, I've gone back and as my father said, you get what you pay for. And I've been fixing up the house ever since. So I spend my summers there, Angie, and I love it there. But I also love, I have a son, and I love raising him in a big city, as well as having a rural place to go in the summer.
Would you call yourself a Newfoundland writer? Should I stop calling you that? Should I call you a Toronto writer? Just a writer?
You can call me anything you like. I think most writers approve of many sort of characterizations of themselves. It just gives you a bigger sense of who you might be. So yes, a Toronto writer, Newfoundland writer, Canadian writer.
Yeah. I'm from Saskatchewan, and I hardly ever write about, in fact, I don't think I do write about Saskatchewan. I keep it as my little safe place where I always feels like home. I don't live there and I don't write about it, but I don't know why. I kind of protect it. But you do write about Newfoundland a fair amount.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, it's one of the things I tell creative writing students is, in order for characters to be believed by a reader, you need to nail their feet down in a location. And landscapes are great. So part of the reason why I set places in Newfoundland are, the backdrops are so interesting. Yeah. But it's only to make a reader believe what my characters are saying.
Mm-hmm. And what your characters are saying often happens in fairly, I think of you as an experimental writer, like you're fairly experimental with form, and you often bridge that gap between fiction and nonfiction, whether it's with autobiographical elements or documentary elements. So that makes me want to ask, what excites you as a writer? What excites you as a writer? What are you trying to do or accomplish in your various writing projects?
It's a great question, Angie. I mean, I think years ago when I was writing a book, I was doing some research, historical research on a time, like 100 years ago in Newfoundland. And there was this doctor, Dr. Wilfred Grenfell. He was world famous. He was like helping the people of Labrador with medical issues. But he used to write books, and he was probably the most famous author in the world at one point, because he wrote about nature and about Labrador wild and being lost on an ice pan and having to eat his dogs, to survive. Anyway, if you try to read his books now, they're impossible to read. They're so bad because he was, trying to write for a public, what the public would like to hear. Now, I mentioned this because there was another doctor with him, Elliot Kirwan, who didn't write anything except he kept a diary, and he had a camera, with these glass plates. And he used to take photographs of the fishermen, and he used to visit the fishermen's families and see how they lived. And he used to just write in his diary descriptions of how people lived in Labrador. And if you read that diary now, which I have, it is so vivid, it is so alive and so immediate, but it was meant for nobody. He wrote it for himself. I say all this because I think as we sit down to write a book, we often write thinking about who is going to read this book. And we always have to remind ourselves that the private life, the life that we secretly live, that is the most exciting and interesting life and could be a permanent record that somebody years from now could read and go, wow, what an amazing, true book. Whereas the public persona we pursue is often something that we have to detour around in order to get to our real material. So that's the kind of thing I'm always battling with, Angie, how to write that private voice, even though I know that I'm going to be writing a book that's meant to be published.
That's very exciting to me. You just gave me the shiver of excitement about creation that I haven't had in a long time. Now I want to hang up and go write a book. So hopefully you'll have the same impact on it in your role as writer in residence. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that can sound a little daunting, but at the same time as I do that, Angie, I also just read fiction, and I read student work paragraph by paragraph. And it's a lot of fun just to get a page of somebody's writing and ask them a few questions about like who's telling the story and what are the details. And if you had to like just tear one page out of your manuscript and roll it up and put it in a bottle and fire it in the ocean, hoping somebody would read it, what would that page be? And would that reader read that page and think, wow, what's going on here? And what came before and what comes after? And that's really exciting to do too.
That's how I think of my books. Every time I publish one, it seems like a message in a bottle you're throwing out. And then when I get an email back, it's like, oh, it landed on an island somewhere. Someone found it. So yeah, so that brings me to the writer in residence has two parts. You'll be working on your own work, but you'll also be able to be available for teaching. And you have a lot of experience teaching at University of Toronto and University of Guelph, really prestigious writing programs. So I often hear people ask, can writing be taught? And of course, you and I would say yes, or we wouldn't be in this business, but I'll ask it differently. What about writing can be taught?
Well, again, another great question. And this is a very basic thing. I mean, I'm a very basic person. And the things we're talking about now, Angie, are things I ask myself every single day. I remind myself every day of these things. I never learn them. I always have to go, oh yeah, that's a better way to write that scene than the way I have it. I'll give you an example. Like I was just downstairs doing the dishes. And as I was doing the dishes, I saw in the dish rack something move. And I thought it was a mouse or something. And I was startled. And then I saw that it was just the reflection of my sleeve in a knife blade, a dinner knife. It was just a movement of a reflection. Now I tell you this because if I was going to write that in my journal, I would say something like how I just told you. I would say, I saw the reflection of my sleeve in a dinner knife, and it frightened me because I thought it was a mouse. But what I've just done to you there is I've written that down with hindsight. I've told it because I know the answer to the problem. And what I have to remember is it's way better if I return to how I experienced it, which was I was doing the dishes and something moved and it frightened me. And then I saw that it was just the sleeve of my shirt in a dinner blade. So that thing of avoiding hindsight is something I'm always reminding myself. How did you see the world before you knew what the world was? And get to that point and illuminate how the world changes for the character. And that's something you can do with every scene that you write.
You're giving me so many ideas. Yes, that's super insightful. And also I can feel the energy of the love of story coming off you, which is contagious. It makes me reminds me that I also love story and love writing and love reading and love working with students. So last year, our writer in residence was Joshua Whitehead, and I know the AU community really enjoyed him being here, and we're really excited about your time with us. And so students or faculty or staff that are listening, very soon you'll see on the writer in residence website information on how much work and when you can submit it to Michael, and he will have an Athabasca University address and he will respond to you. And we're looking forward to booking him in for a couple of talks during his residency as well that will be available online. So welcome to Athabasca, Michael.
Thank you, Angie, and I'm really looking forward to working with your students and the year to come.